What's up, everybody? Welcome to PixelPlay Sidequest. Hey, we totally didn't skip an episode because I was literally not around the entire day and filled my face up with tremendous amounts of food that made Chris jealous. No, we didn't do anything like that, but we are still going to be here to give you your bonus content here on Friday. My name is Adam, aka CS Radical, joined as always, Jin and Chris. You're noticing, this seems a little bit different from what we usually do. Are you guys not talking about some other console and a bunch of games you have to remake? No. No, we are not, because we've both finished Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Chris, more so, I think, is surprised by this, because I was having a feeling I was going to be sitting on this for a little bit longer. Bless you, sir, for getting past this, so I don't have to wait too much longer before spouting the shit that needs to come out of my mouth right now. But otherwise, we won't get into the heavy shit right away. I want to start positive, and that's obviously a little bit of a teaser that I'm not going to be fully positive on this game, but that is a later problem. I will say I totally see why this is going to be I have a hard time seeing that this won't be a Game of the Year nominee at the end of the year. I feel like the hype combined with the reviews are kind of leading me to believe that this is going to stick. Blueprints might not, but I think this one will stick.
Yes. Oh, 100%. I think it's a guaranteed nominee at this point.
In the way that we were kind of looking at Rebirth as being like the favorite early in 2024, I feel like that's the same case for Clair Obscur in 2025. So I will say, like, from the very beginning, this entire game felt like it was going to be slowly piecing together a story and the intrigue of what was going on in this world. Because I said from the very beginning, we were talking about it when we were first starting to get into this game, it's the idea that you don't really know why anything's happening. You don't know what any of this stuff is yet. You don't know what this world is. You don't know where all these powers are coming from. You don't know what a lot of the motivations for everybody are. And it's the excitement and the anticipation of getting closer and closer into that. And the first act really does a fantastic job of that. I mean, my reviews said from the very beginning, like, this is like borderline 10 out of 10 as we're going through the early parts of this game, because I'm super intrigued on what's going on here. And I know you felt the same. Like, what really stood out in the beginning for this game for you?
Honestly, the intrigue of just like, what the fuck is happening? Like, it was a world like you're describing like no other. And you go into it with almost no explanation. You just start with like one devastating day that's kind of like obviously a yearly ritual. You kind of start there. So you start off with a little bit of sadness, a little bit of devastation, find out a bit more about what the expedition is, and then it kind of just continuously grows and confuses from there. But when I say confuses, I do mean in a good way. I mean in a way of intrigue, mystery, and like, this is not just a normal world. This is really cool, really messed up, completely unique to any story I've ever heard or read or played a game of or anything. And it really was the story that hooked me from the very, very beginning.
Now, I did forget to say at the start of this video, I mean, it's probably implied given how long this video will inevitably be, and it's a full review of this game. This is going to be spoilers. We're going to try to not be too over the top at the beginning of this video so y'all can get a bit of a lead in here, but you now have been warned. We could at any point just kind of drop a bombshell. Because I will say, like, the idea of the Paintress itself was a very interesting concept, because it's like, okay, because in a lot of Final Fantasy games, like, for as using them as the base example for a turn-based RPG, you don't necessarily know what you're fighting against right away. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't quite. Like, usually a quarter of the way through, you know. Or at least you think you know. Sometimes Final Fantasy games just go, lol, here's an actual boss in the last 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
But this time, it's very prevalent that, like, your end goal is the Paintress. Is that the end goal in the end? Not necessarily, but, like, you do have a definitive end per se when you do reach the Paintress in one way, shape, or form. And I think that's why, again, I really gravitated to this game early, because it felt like it had an idea, it had direction, it had an end goal. Like, it had a lot of things covered. And as I said from the very beginning too, the combat actually worked out very well. I did handle the parrying and the dodging mechanics a lot better than I thought I would have. Not to mention that I didn't feel nearly as overwhelmed with the Pictos system as I thought I would have. Now, that being said, this is one of my immediate gripes. There are way too many of them, and a lot of them do not have any use to you. Like, for example, the solo ones where they're specifically only working if you're fighting on your own, which is either in the duels, which happens very seldomly, or in the odd case of like you're down to the last bit of your party. But in all honesty, that's a situation that never came, because if an enemy was doing enough to kill my party members, they were gonna kill all of them. I wasn't gonna survive long enough to finish the fight with one person. So that never really was a situation that arrived. But there were other things, like I didn't really use the mark abilities very much. Like I did have a massive focus on burn when I could. And then also like a lot of the passives just were too expensive that until you get to the very end of the game, you're not really making builds so much as you're like, this is the things I want the most right now. Like I know it by the time that this game has really had its time out there, that there's going to be all these crazy builds that people make up. But like, at the end of the day, you only have so much room, and I felt like that just kind of meant like you had to decide like what things you needed the most. It didn't become I want to make a build for this specific character type. It's like, well, I can't not have the give people AP if somebody dies, or certain like abilities like that where it's just really good abilities if shit goes south, or like, you know, your first attack does extra damage, or stuff like that. Like those always seem to be the ones that you have to kind of just go with first because it's the best ones possible. And it felt less like you were making like builds or anything, which is I was a little disappointed by.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. And the reason I say that is because I actually went with the building of my builds very early in the game, like in the first act. I was like, I know two characters that I'll always want. I'll switch out that third character, and I'm going to just focus all of my builds, all of my Lumina points or whatever it's called for adding more Pictos and all that kind of stuff just to these two characters. And by the end of the game, those two characters could have carried me through everything. In fact,
by the time I was done, like my final party was Mael, Lune, and oh my god, why am I blanking on the
Monaco?
Yeah, Monaco.
I feel like you had Monaco, yeah.
Yeah. Mael was just my powerhouse, so most of my colors of Lumina, I think, is what that type was called.
Yeah.
Most of that went to her. Like the other two, like CL and Verso, were just they were just the sorry guys, I love you, but you're not getting any of this. I don't need you, because there was the part of my brain that was like, what if they do something that requires you to use everybody? And there's one dungeon that is just like a side dungeon that requires you to fight individual battles with each person in order to finish it. But apart from that, it never really is necessary. So like, again, another nitpick is there's really no reason to use, even though you only have 6 party members, 5, but you know, you have 6, and there's not really a need to use all of them. You can just decide your 3 and you're fine. And honestly, like I get that, you know, most turn-based RPG or most RPGs in general are like that. But generally, when you have such a small cast, there's usually a reason for that. And I felt like in this time it wasn't. Like Trails games have like 30 fucking characters at times. So there's always the, you know, don't worry about like, we're never going to make you like fight certain bits. Or there are chapters where they just split the parties up. None of this ever happens. And it's just like, it feels kind of counteractive to the point of like, this is supposed to be a collective team, and it didn't feel like it ever needed to be. It was just 3 people carrying, which, you know, as a story, from a story perspective, didn't really help towards the end. And I'll talk about more of the different things in the end that kind of really started to push me away from a higher score. But the biggest complaint that I have from the early game is just that there were so few reasons to use like a bunch of certain things. Like you were just trying to get by with the best thing that you had and what you thought was the most powerful, and just not like maybe I think it seems like you had a bit more of a lean towards at least some sort of archetypical build. But like for me, it was just, I like these characters and I'm just going to make them as overpowered as I can, and I'm not really going to care otherwise what that looks like.
Yeah, I was similar with the fact that I did just have one team that I stuck with and kind of just didn't feel a need to switch around. You used Monaco. I had Verso just because, like, story wise, to me, it just made sense of him being a part of the team. And
I
he
honestly
was,
tried to, because I honestly
yeah,
liked his ability early on, like the idea of like being able to quickly get yourself to S rank.
yeah,
Like it was really
yeah.
neat. And then just randomly, I tried Monaco as I was just collecting feet for more of his abilities, and just saw how much output he was doing, and I went, "Oh shit, sorry, Verso, I can't
Yeah.
use you anymore."
Yeah, I also got rid of Verso. But funny enough, I got rid of Verso for CL. And the reason is not because I didn't attack with her once. I had her for the rest of the late game, and she actually was what I realized the best support character that exists in the game because she had two abilities. One of them was to like give 5 AP to another character and make their turn happen immediately. So I could have my one character go, use a Pictos that lets them go twice in a row. Then I would go to Sayo. Then I would give the 5 AP back to that other character and have them go again. It would give them another 2 turns. So
Mhm.
because of her like support abilities, I realized way too late in the game because this is something I apparently could have had much earlier just without realizing it. She ended up becoming extremely helpful. So it's weird because I feel like each character does have their benefits, but I agree that the game does not exactly tell you or encourage you to experiment. It's more like you're probably just picking it based on the 3 characters that you like story wise, and then you're like, okay, go.
And I think that might be like to move to another topic. That might be my biggest complaint with this game is that, and I know a lot of people will say differently because we've obviously had like the Ubisoft open world games where it's just too much hand holding. I feel like this game does not give you any information, and it makes it extremely frustrating. And there's so many different examples of this. The lack of mini map is the biggest one. It's just there are way too many branching pathways that I would have to like. Eventually, I got good at figuring out what the right paths were, but like for the first half of the game, I'm just stumbling into cutscenes sometimes and going, "Great, okay, so I don't know if I'm coming back into this dungeon or not." Because again, I'm not aware of how this game's running that. So that was frustrating. The idea of all of these fights that you can just walk into and they one-shot you because they have no way of telling you that it's a level 60 enemy or something like that. The dungeons where they have the red ring around it and it says danger on the text, that's some indication, so at least you know then. But they were just enemies slittered around the map. Now, we all learned from Final Fantasy VII what that can sometimes look like with the Omega weapons and stuff, but you know, you kind of just want to like stumble and fight everything that's there instead of just suddenly die. And you would also think that it would make more sense just to have enemies that are geared around the level you should be at with the level of exploration that SKA should be giving you. Like it obviously makes sense that you can't reach the giant snake in the sky that would kill the crap out of you, but you don't have fly yet, so it's not a concern. But why is the big hulking like a stone statue in the water so damn difficult? I have the surf ability and it's not that far from where I get the ability. Why can't I fight this thing? So that's
Frog,
also
yeah.
frustrating. And
Yeah.
then the biggest thing is, to go back to what I was starting with here, is that it tells you a little about how each of their abilities work, but it doesn't give you enough opportunities to mess around with it and try to find what those things are. And I found that a lot of what I did build wise especially in the later games was I'd have to look at guys just to be like, hey, like what's roughly anybody doing for Mael as like a setup for their 6 skills? Like what Pictos are they kind of using? Now I still kind of lean in my direction in some ways. Like I didn't literally go tit for tat from a build, but I felt that I was using Google way more than I ever have had to do for a game in quite some time. And that's not how I should be playing a game. Now I know Soulsborne games are a lot like that, where it's a lot of just you'll have to figure it out as you go, or you can, use guides and stuff. But me personally, that's not interesting to me. I would rather, like, I don't want you to literally grab me by the hand and pull me wherever I need to go, but I don't want to feel like an idiot anytime I stumble into something and have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. For me, well, first I'll just mention that minimap thing as well. That is my number one gripe with the game. It doesn't hurt it too much, and not because I don't think it's incredibly important. I think that a minimap, especially one of the minimaps where it shows the little dots of where you've walked and stuff, like your recent path would be helpful, specifically. Because yes, when you're in areas it's so easy to be like, okay, crap, like did I go left, did I go right? There's two areas, you end up going right, all of a sudden a cutscene starts playing and you're like, fuck, I should have gone left. Like it immediately kind of just pops out, right? And a mini map would fix that. But again, it doesn't hurt it too much for me because I feel like that's such an easy fix and probably something we're going to see patched into the game shortly after so many people have already beaten, unfortunately, like us. Like, I think it's an easy fix, and if they throw that in, that will have a huge help. I'm
actually surprised no one modded it at this point.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's trying. I have to imagine. Yeah. When it comes though to the enemies and the builds and stuff, I agree with you, and I understand why you're saying that. But I also have a slightly different take because one, with the enemies, I liked that there was enemies, and I didn't know if they were overpowered or not. I do have another gripe that relates to that, which might come up in a bit. But I actually didn't mind that there would be like a level 80 enemy and I'd have no idea until I tried to kill it. Auto saving and stuff wasn't too bad. So
for the most part, like it's not terrible. Like once you've done it once or twice, you kind of get the sense of, okay, this is probably out of my depth. There was one specifically, I think it's once you get swim, and it's like this weird like around the corner thing, and it's not like a massive enemy. It looks like just a standard enemy. And I went to go fight it, and it just one-shots. And I'm like, okay, like, why that one? Because obviously, like I said, the big hulker in the water, there's this, like, really giant thing in the icy area in the early parts of it. Like, there are certain ones that are very obvious. Like, look how big this thing is. You're probably not ready for this fight yet.
Yeah.
But there are others where it would happen, and it's like, you could have done... I think even just some simple communication of, like, some sort of just, warning ahead of time that like, hey, this enemy is like, whether it's like a red aura around it or something like that, like just something to give you a bit more of an inclination to be like, hey, because they do it for the maps. Why wouldn't you do it for the enemies on the actual overworld as well?
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Especially with the smaller enemies, like maybe a little skull or something above their head, like, hey, you're gonna die. Like, don't even bother.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd be fine with that. That's like a quality of life thing that I think that would be great. But the big enemies, the giant ones on the map, where I'm like, I'm gonna try this. If I die, I die, and it's like, oh, I've been one shot. Okay, I'm not ready for this.
At least the autosave is good enough that you're not obviously gonna lose that much.
Yeah, so I wasn't too bad with that. I kind of actually liked the not knowing, because then it was like, am I ready? Am I not ready? And then if I wasn't ready, it was like, I'm gonna come back. And you're gonna not enjoy when I come back, and I did, and I like that.
Or in my case, I went back several times and realized, nope, still not good enough yet.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's like you have to be perfect parry, no hit once, and it's like, no, I'm not that good.
And to go back on that too, like I think now you might feel differently on this. I think there might have been a little too much backtracking by the end of it, and not to mention that in the third act when you have fly, I don't think it was fast enough to kind of justify the amount. Like the map is a little bigger than I mean, actually, you know what? I don't know if the overworld is too big. I think just SKA's fly was just not fast enough to get to certain areas. Like by the time that I went to Lumiere to end the game, I was in the air for like 3 minutes trying to get back there. It's like, okay, this is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, and oddly enough, when I said I'd come back to my other gripe, that's what it is. It is a lot of backtracking in the third act. I personally love backtracking in that. It's very nostalgic for me, though. I don't think it's very modern. I think it is something that's a little archaic. It is very much like the fourth disc of Final Fantasy IX or the third disc of Final Fantasy VII.
Final Fantasy X did it, but it didn't make you fly across the map. It would just you be on the airship and you select which area you want to go back to.
Yeah, exactly. And I did like in those games where it's like, all right, it's the final disc, you can go to the boss, or there's all the side stuff, and you can explore and just do it, or you can finish the game. It's kind of up to you. Obviously, you and me being JRPG guys, we probably went and did a lot of the map.
I was going to say two things. What was your final level?
My final level was obviously before the last thing I
No,
did.
sorry, like your what was your character's levels?
Oh, 99.
Okay,
Oh,
so
I
you,
went
you
all.
went even further than me. Okay, because I finished like in high, I think it was like 88, 89 when I finished.
Yeah, no, there was an achievement to get him to 99,
And
and
did
I
you and
was.
did you finish the secret dungeon that you had to go underwater for, including the boss that was two forms,
Is it the guy?
like Simon?
The Simon, yeah, that's where I ended up getting to be level 99. I
Okay,
beat him when I was 95 or 96. His two forms, it was pure luck based for me because he was a pain. And
yeah,
it
I
was all
fought the
my L.
first form and I survived that at like 87, I think I was, and I was like, oh man, that was tough, cool. And then it was the second form, like, oh, son of a bitch, all right. And then I did a max like 6 9s and realized that was like not even 10% of his health bar. And I went, no, I'm not doing this. I quickly paused, Googled what the result was, saw it was a Verso weapon, and said, I do not fucking need that. And just reloaded and went away.
So I did it, but that's because there's an achievement to beat him. And I was
Of
like,
course, for you.
yeah, yeah. And spoiler alert, everybody, I got 100% of the achievements because that's what I do. But yeah, so mine, pure Mael, pure luck based because I had all the maximum everything. Like if somebody's burned, 25% extra damage. If they're marked, 25% damage.
Yeah.
Inverted. Start with virtuose stance. I use Sael where it's like Mael gets to go, and then Sael's like, here's AP, go again. I one-shotted the first phase and two-shotted the second phase, and it was the only way I could actually win. First phase meant nothing. I could one-shot, no problem. But the second phase, I had a Pictos called Roulette, where it's you'll either do 50% of your damage only or 200%, and it's randomized. And it's kind of like I had to hit him twice with Virtuose Stance, and it marked and burned. And I had to get roulette twice in a row.
Yeah.
So it took, I think, 3 or 4 attempts because if I missed, like parrying all of his attacks, I'm sure I could have tried. There's no freaking way. I tried and tried and tried, but if I missed one, I died. So, but yeah, so I was able to beat him, but it was that like pure JRPG, make the most craziest maximum build and get just the best RNG you can possibly get. Um, yeah. So it was very frustrating. I honestly didn't think I was going to be able to do it because even being at like level 95 or 96 that I was at the time, I was like, he's still one-shotting me. Like, I don't even know how to actually maximize further. Like, what do I do here?
And like having a skill
Yeah.
that puts you to 1 HP too is just
Last
that
chance. And I love
that
I
is
did
some
that.
that is some Kefka fun. Oh no, it was a Kefka that did that. It's been a while, man.
Yeah, but that was another part of the strategy. Also, I had to use last chance so that
Oh, yeah.
she was at 1 HP. So, like, he was going to one shot everybody anyways, and they had like 10,000 HP. So it's like, screw it. If she has 1 or 10,000, it makes no difference. Might as well just have her be that maximum damage output that she was. And it was something like 26 billion. And it was only half his health bar. That's why I had to like do it twice in a row. I'm like, frick, like that's what is he, 50 billion health or something ridiculous? Like, holy shit. But yeah, I did it.
You were mentioning how hard it is to parry and dodge. When did you get to the point that it started becoming a little more comfortable? Because I found that by about the time that we got to the end of Act 1, I think I'd gotten I started not needing to dodge nearly as much. Because thankfully, a lot of the enemies do repeat a little bit. So you do eventually start to get used to it. It's the bosses that become way more difficult with their feints and such.
Yes, I honestly I stopped dodging altogether during Act 1. I did it a bit because I was like, it's easier to do. But I was like,
They
no,
kind of
this
give you
parry is.
more of a need to parry because of all the counterattack Pictos you eventually start collecting.
Yes, and it's just so much more satisfying when you actually do parry and then counterattack. Holy heck. So but I'm on the same boat as you. It was kind of like as soon as I saw an enemy's attack pattern or like what it actually looks like when they attack, because I saw a very funny video today and it was of a guy playing the game and it was actually like a real life person fighting an enemy in real life in front of a green screen. But it was like, all right, I just got to parry this enemy. And the enemy was like doing all these different movements that look like they're about to attack. And then they don't yet. And it's always like they go to attack, but then it slows down for 2 seconds and then they attack. And it's like the parry is purposely like hard to gauge on certain enemies, especially bosses. So it was kind of like as long as I fought something like 2 or 3 times, I could figure out its moveset and probably parry like 80% of what they're doing. Um, and that's kind of how I was through the rest of the game. So some bosses, yes, I would die. I was like, I did not realize that's how their moveset was going to go. But then after 2, maybe 3 attempts, yeah, I would even figure them out and I'd be like, okay, I've can parry enough that I survive and counterattack enough that I'll take things out.
So to move on, we obviously know this is going to get a Game of the Year nomination. I think right now, this game is fighting with South of Midnight for both Beth. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of English to say all at once.
It is.
They're both going to be fighting for best visual design and for best audio design. And I think they're going to trade at this point unless something else takes them over. I think Clair Obscur will take best visual design. And I think right now, like South of Midnight will probably do better on the music soundtrack. Although I've seen a lot of people say that this is one of the best RPG soundtracks they've ever heard. I think we can calm down a little bit on that one. I think we can kind of relax a little bit there. You know, there's a lot of good things there, and we're not even in the Nobuo Uematsu era there. But it's really incredible to me how such a small studio in you know is a rebellion, right?
Studio Sandfall.
Yeah. Oh, is this, who am I thinking with Rebellion then?
I'm not sure.
God only knows.
I know that one. Yeah. No, it's Sandfall something. Interactive entertainment, something like that.
So for a team like that to make such a striking game, and I think that's also what's really helped its hype value, is that it is a gorgeous game.
Oh, so gorgeous. Oh, so beautiful. The graphic style just like was blowing me away. Like it's it's unique. It's like a Tim Burton movie meets like Dark Souls meets I don't know, like I guess kind of Final Fantasy-ish, maybe a little bit. Like it's so many things mixed together and I was there for it the entire time. Like certain things I was like, well, that's creepy as shit. And I'm not great with creepy, but it was like all good creepy. It seemed like as if children had taken creepy dolls and like made them real and like go have fun. And I loved
like
it.
with such a striking visual, like this is definitely already very close to film quality with a lot of it. And we've been talking recently about how there's starting to become way too many video game movies. This is one of the few that I'd actually accept because I think this actually can work in the confines of a 2-hour film.
Yeah, I feel like it could, or maybe a couple films.
Yeah, like you could definitely make this work in like a set of acts, but I think you could tell a story in this world.
Yes,
or even if you want to do like another expedition entirely as a television series, you know?
Yes, I could definitely see that with this. It would if they could do it, if they had the budget for it and all that, obviously, and the proper writers and maybe even have the developers of the game involved, I could definitely see something. Yeah, it'd be really cool.
It really never ceased to amaze me. Like just anytime I go to a new area, like obviously like starting out the floating waters map was just incredibly beautiful.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite area.
And then once you start moving up and you start getting to like the Gestral compound with all the red trees, like we said it before, like a lot of games seem to be devoid of color, and then all of a sudden, as of recently, we're starting to get a lot more of them. Like Avowed, for example, being similar to that too, where you're starting to see a lot more games that are not just, and even for a game that's as dreary as Expedition 33 is, they still go out of their way to have just absolute stunning beauty and color with it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was colorful. Every area was unique. Like, yes, there was the mandatory water area. There was the mandatory ice area, snow area, like all of that. But for like every area you went, it wasn't like, oh, this is just kind of copy paste ish from one of those other areas, or oh, here we are in yet another forest. Each one was like this unique take on like as if somebody had the artistic freedom to design any area they want. Like you actually design something you as an artist would want to make that's this beautiful, crazy world that people would walk into. And it works even in the construct of the game, right? Because it's a world that kind of doesn't really make sense. It doesn't necessarily flow. Like you said, one area is like you're walking yet somehow underwater and all that kind of stuff, right? So to go from that to all of a sudden this beautiful forest with the Gestrels and stuff, and then all of a sudden you're in this crazy battlefield of like millions of swords and blood and stuff. It's like you could go into anything and you'd have no idea what was about to happen, or the way it would look. Sorry, but each and every one was just so artistically beautiful that I just assumed that the developers just gave artistic freedom and let people do what they wanted to do. And this is what it looks like when you do that, because it was gorgeous every time. So gorgeous.
And it's so interesting too, like you know, obviously with this being such a dark and sad game, and being able to balance it with such beauty, and also, quite frankly, some of the best low-key comedy I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, it's like so dark, all about grief and all this kind of stuff. And then like SK will come in and just say some funny ass shit. And it's like, damn, this is like
you have
humor,
all
dark
of these
humor.
stuff, and then all of a sudden the first bit with SK and Francois just happens, and you're just like, I thought this was supposed to be sad. What happened?
Yeah, it's so good.
My favorite thing still was Verso trying to convince Monaco to join them. He's like, I'm not going anywhere. There might be a lot of fights, though. Yeah, there might be a lot of fights. And that was it.
Did you do Monaco's side quest?
Yeah.
So during that, it's like he's about to fight. Wow, what's her name? Like the leader of the
Golgra.
Gestrels or whatever. Yeah, Golgra. It's like, no, don't. Verso's like, no, don't fight her. Like, don't be dumb. And he's like, I challenge you to a duel. And he's like, I'm not helping you. And he's like, please help me. Like, it's just this hilarious like buddy back and forth. Yeah. That's just so well.
We need a buddy cop movie of those two.
Yeah, we really do.
It's interesting too, like. Like, obviously, some of the characters are a little more solo, like CL and Loon are generally to themselves. But you have, like, a really good relationship with Verso and Monaco, and you have that relationship with Mael and Gustav. So it's nice to see that even with, like, obviously my, you know, reservations about it being a party of 6 or later on 5, and you don't really need to use them, that at least story-wise, it's not like everybody's just, you know, on their own doing their own thing. There is definitely like some key relationships that kind of go in. Obviously, CL and Verso have a little bit of a fling, you know, in the course of their little personal story. Lune is just kind of like the one lone wolf kind of one that just is kind of there to be like, look, we got a job to do. You know, I'll give a little bit of personal time to you if I really feel like it. But generally speaking, I'm here to win and nothing else. I think that's also why I kind of gravitate to her, because she's like, dude, I don't got fucking time for relationships. If we don't do this soon, we're dying.
Oh, Lune's my girl, like 100%.
She's probably winning the Coffee Date Award at the end of this year for me.
Oh, easily. I had her as the main character, like on the map the entire time. If it switched away from her, I was like, what are you doing? Well,
that's also easy to say though, because her running animation is so fluid, so you don't have to worry about like, especially if your computer's stuttering, because I was playing on PC, it stutters a lot in comparison when it's people running, and just the animation didn't work as well, so I immediately gravitated to Lune anyway because it just looks so crisp.
Yes. Yeah, I loved her animation. She was such a cool character. Oh my gosh.
Well, we've been talking about, you know, between 6 and 5 party members for a while. 2 questions. 1, did you expect anybody to die that early? And 2, did you expect them to come back?
No, I did not expect him to die. I did not expect anybody to die. Or at least not that early. Like maybe a much closer to the end.
I considered one of Gustav or Mael kicking the bucket at the end when we get to the Paintress. Not even remotely close. And also, my thought process, this is again when you do things right. I wish I could go back. Like obviously I could just Google it and find out, but I'd love to go back and see his tree again and realize like they intentionally locked a bunch of stuff to make you think that he was safe.
Yeah.
And made me also think for the entirety of the game that we were getting him back somehow. And we don't.
No, they just get rid of him and kind of new guy comes in. And yeah, it was when that started happening, I was like glued to my screen on my TV. I was like,
that was definitely the point that I was like, okay, I'm all in. Because I was struggling in the early game to play a lot in a row. Like I would pop it in for 2 hours, play a little bit, and was fine. And I was very happy with it. But I wasn't like sucked into the point of like, I am not stopping until this goes through.
Yeah.
Around that point is when I went, okay, yeah. We're going to put some time into this.
Yeah, the end of Act 1 was insane. That is 100% when I also turned up to like 11 and I'm not playing any other games and I'm honed in on this one only. Oh, so good at that
we're
part.
now in all spoiler territory here. So
100%.
we get to the paintress, and it's over, and we all know it wasn't over. We're not stupid. We played enough JRPGs to know that it wasn't fucking close to being over. You'll feel differently than me because I know that your score is going to be higher than this at the end. This is the point I stopped enjoying the game.
Yeah, okay.
The story, as soon as you defeat the paintress and you go back to Lumiere and everyone dies, I go, what? What the fuck's going on? And then you realize that, oh, it's Star Ocean till the end of time. This is all just a dream.
Yeah, I kind of took it different in the sense like obviously the paintress was not killing everybody. Full spoilers, obviously, at this point for anybody if you're for some reason still here. She's was protecting, I guess, everybody because it's actually Renoir that's trying to get rid of everybody. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like you defeated your last line of defense. And yes, the world is a dream, but I guess more like, a painted reality.
You might have read a little bit deeper into it. Are all the people like Lune and CL, are they actually real people trapped in this? Or are they just, no. Or are they just memories, kind of like what Tidus is to the Faith?
They are just created by that one family. They're just created.
So they're not even. So they're not even like just people
not even
lost
real.
in it. So they're just NPCs in a way.
They're just NPCs in a fake universe. Think of it like a fake virtual world, but instead of virtual, it's painted.
Because I will say, like I did pretty much do everything, but I also know that there also could be things that I misinterpret. So it's good to hear it from another side. Because that was my understanding, is that they're essentially just NPCs created in it.
Yes.
And it's just a sense of they're trying to, Miles trying to save them for multiple reasons, obviously Verso being the primary one, but also just being like, well, it's not fair to all these people that they suddenly have to no longer exist because we can't deal with the fact that one person's gone. And I think that's where I get into the territory of this is where it doesn't vibe with me anymore. Now, I know a lot of people are okay with these kind of stories because, well, The Last of Us is a really popular game. And isn't it a shock that the guy who doesn't like The Last of Us also kind of doesn't like the way that this final act goes, because it ends up being way more about loss and negativity than it is about anything else. Because it stops being fun at this point for the most part.
Yeah, at this point it is revealed, obviously, where they reveal a lot more of the stories, what's going on, who the paintress was, who Renoir is, who Verso is, who Clair is, who Mael is, and like why everybody's kind of there.
Well, who Alicia is, I guess, if we're being technical.
Yeah, Alicia. Why is everybody here? Why was this happening? Holy crap, this is actually just a painted fake world. No wonder it was the way it was. I guess that actually explains why all the monsters and why all the whatever is the way it is. But it's all just about grief and loss. And it's like people's way of handling it. And now they want to get rid of it to help end loss. And people want to hold on to it because it's their way of remaining in a happy place. And holy shit, it's so heavy. Yeah. It is very heavy.
And there are parts of it that do work. I think the problem that I have with it is that they shove so much information at you very quickly about how the painters work and everything else. And it just starts to get either too much or too confusing that I'm just like, you could have just said, hey, this painting is our recreation, just in memory of Verso, and they can't get over it. But they start playing these, like, well, the sister's doing something else and trying to pull it, and like there's all this other stuff in the background. It's just like, guys, like, you can simplify this. We didn't need to go that extra complicated with it. And then, like I said, what worked with me was the intrigue, was the mystery of things. And once that all left, it was not as easy for me to stay with it. Now, I had to finish it, so I pushed through. But I will say that, like, I ended up picking Mael's ending, like choosing to keep the paintings, which seems to be the bad ending. But it's in a similar vein of, I got upset with the game trying to tell me that I had to do it a certain way, in similar ways to like what the ending of the original Life is Strange does, where it tries to tell you, you have to let Chloe go. And I go, fuck no, I did all this work for that. I'm not doing that. And I knew that Mael was going to be potentially killing herself if we save Verso, but I went, no, because I love Lune. I love CL. I don't want any of these fucking people to disappear. That's not fair to them. Fuck that. I don't care if everybody has a bad ending now. Because the bad ending doesn't look that bad to everybody else, just the one person stuck in there.
Yeah, it's such an interesting way.
Did you pick that ending as well, or did you go the other way?
Fuck no. I was like, I know that this sucks. Okay, here's the crazy part. With Act 3, as soon as it's revealed who Renoir is and everything like that, Renoir is like, you know, the dad, he's like, listen, Alicia, your mom was in here and she was dying, basically. Like, if you're trapped in here that long, you get lost and it'll kill you kind of in the real world. Like, you can't stay in here. It's bad. We need to get rid of this painting. No one's going to stay out of it. You're going to keep coming in. Alicia's like, no, I want to stay. I'm not like mom. I'll stay. I want this world. The real world sucks. She has no voice. Her face is burned. Her mom basically hates her, blames her for the son's death and all that shit. She's like, no, I want to be here. And even at the end of the game, when you're confronting him, she's like, no, I'm not like mom. You can trust me. I won't stay in here. Like, I'll come out and will only use it properly. And you know that she's not going to. During Act 3, as soon as you found out at the beginning who Renoir was, why he was trying to get his wife, the paintress, out, and like now wants to get Alicia out and everything, I immediately said out loud to myself, I was in a room alone. I don't know why I said it out loud, but I was like, Renoir is not the enemy. I was like, he's right.
Renoir did nothing wrong.
Yeah, I was like, this is like Thanos did nothing wrong, but only I actually believe this. I was like, Renoir is just trying to save his family in the real world from this fake world. And anybody who stays in here, and he's just like being a dad who's like, fuck, like, why is my wife still in here? Fuck, now my daughter wants to stay in here? Like, get the fuck out of this painting. You're all going to die.
Did they explain why if there's a reason why she can't leave and come back?
She can. It's that you don't. It's that it's so much better than the real world that you don't choose to like go back to normal life.
So it's just a case of like she's not even willing to, you know, leave, and then if she wants to just see him, like, well, again, just to say hello and just kind of feel a little bit better when she needs to. Like, it's just that level. Because that was my part of my brain too. There were two reasons why, like, apart from just being maliciously ignorant of what, you know, the game actually wants you to do. Like, I didn't fully trust the idea that this is what was going on. So I just went with my gut and went, I think Renoir's lying, and I think we're going to get a reveal if I do this. So I actually thought I was going for the good ending. So I was wrong. The second part, though, was like, dude, like, this bitch can leave anytime she wants and go back in. Like, it's not hard. Like, you can go back and visit. And I'm thinking, like, surely they won't do this bullshit of, like, if I do it, she'll say, like, oh, well, I'm going to stay. But also don't go, yeah, I know I'm not going to die in here because I seen what happened to my mom, so I'll leave when I know that I should. And then the game's like, nah, she's that fucking stupid too. I'm like, great.
I think the reason that they were saying that she wouldn't leave is because she's worried if she left, her father in the real world would take that opportunity to destroy the painting, and then she could never go back.
Well, and what confuses me then is that he agrees to relent. So, like, shouldn't that be enough?
Maybe she doesn't trust her dad. Who knows? I don't know. Like, his wife was in there for I don't think that in painting world versus like in the real world.
That's the other thing. We don't actually know like how much time has passed because obviously she's been in there 67 years.
Yeah,
but we don't know what that means in the real world because Alicia doesn't appear to have aged.
No, I don't think it's equivalent. I think it's one of those things you experience like 67 years, but in the real world, it's just been like, I don't know, a year, maybe. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Which they don't explain, and I think that's a whole other part. Because in the real
DLC
world,
can flesh some more of that out.
Yeah, or maybe there'll be a sequel and they'll keep going because, yeah, they talk about that there's a war in the real world between the painters and the writers. Don't expand on that at all. Clea, the other sister, is not in the painting.
That was another thing too. It's like she never really comes into play other than like small like flashback cutscenes sort of deal.
Oh, did you find her as a boss in the game?
I may have, and I just may have not put the two and two together.
She's in some like flying manor, I think it is, and there's these 4 super bosses you have to beat, which unlocks the door to her. And
I remember that. I forgot to finish that dungeon. Okay.
Yeah, so you fight her, but it's not really her.
Yeah.
It turns out Clea's not in there. The whole family used to go in there and like hang out. After the mom went in to grieve, she created a painted version of her whole family. That's why Verso's there. There was like a second Renoir. Alicia, though, she like painted her like she's pissed at her, so she gave her still the burned face with the mask and all that shit.
Yeah, where we see
And
essentially
Clea,
the black and white versions of them.
yes. And Clea goes in, finds herself, and actually paints, repaints or like readjusts herself, her painted self, stays in that mansion, and all that character is doing is creating all the Nevrons of the world, all the enemies.
Okay.
That's all she's doing.
That's cool.
And and they explain that the reason that she did that was to try and get her parents out of the painting because the Nevrons, chroma is like the energy of the world, and if you have to use that to paint things, the Nevrons are kind of like using up the chroma, so there's not enough for her mom and dad to use. So that's why new things can't be repainted. As things die, they're not just repainted and brought back, as like the paintress Renoir can't even do it either. It's like it prevents the world from healing or being used anymore because the Nevrons are sucking up all the chroma. So Clay is like, I'm sick of my parents being in here. I'm going to repaint myself into this tortured version of myself that just stays in this mansion and paints all the enemies of the world on repeat all day, every day, forever. And it's then like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on? And you see this very fucked up, yeah, like the black and white version of Clea, and it's like, we got to put her out of her misery. Holy shit. Yeah, it gets wild. That's the thing with Act 3. It doesn't tell you to go do all this stuff. You find it by pure accident, just by exploring. And then when you do, there's so much extra story and lore that they threw in on the side that, like, if I wasn't going for achievements, I would have never found that.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of stuff that they put in there should have been a little more linear for the third act. Like, you could have had a couple more story missions, because Act 3 just being, you can go to the end now if you want. And I'm like, that's weird. Why would you just tell me to go to the end now? Like, shouldn't there be like a whole other set of stuff? Now, obviously, there's the finishing your party members, like, stories and stuff like that. But yeah, like, it's strange to me that you wouldn't have some of that content readily available.
Yeah, even
like I can understand like Simon and whatever, like those being secret. Yeah, no problem. But something like with Clea there, that doesn't make any sense to me. That it was just kind of like you'd have to find it.
Yeah, because it's a huge part of the story. Because it's like, I think it's at that point you find out that Clea was outside the monolith when Expedition Zero gets there, and she tells her painted versions of Renoir and Verso, like, you aren't real, you are painted. And it's like the real Clea that finds them, murders all of Expedition Zero, and Renoir and Verso are the only two to survive because they're immortal, because that's how they were painted by the mom. And that's when Clea also finds her version of herself and sends her up to like paint forever kind of shit. But yeah, like these are huge story moments that explains what Expedition Zero like kind of happened to them, and when they realized like, oh wow, we're actually like painted versions of a family for the paintress, and this world's not even real, and this version of Clea is who's explained that. But you won't really know all these details if you don't go and actually find just this super boss that was hard to get to, because it's like an area where it's like, kill these 4 super bosses, that will unlock the door so you can get to a 5th boss, which turns out to be Clea. And I mean, I can imagine a lot of people getting there and being like, I don't want to, like, I'm underpowered, like I can't even get through the first boss, like let alone to get through 5. I don't know if I want it. Yeah. And
then the last stupid question I have in the story is, Mael repainted everybody back. Why didn't she repaint Gustav?
In the ending that you got?
No, like when she comes back and brings back Lune, Ciel, and Monaco, it's like, I thought you missed him.
Yes.
Are you saying that you only had enough power to get back that many, but you chose not Gustav?
What I think happened, I could be wrong with this, but because she was in Lumiere when everybody who was in Lumiere got like poofed into, nothingness. And she was escaping because her dad's like, no, I'm erasing the painting. She's like, no, I'm taking off. SK, let's fly out of here. And she stops and she goes, I can feel them. And like grabs some of the chroma in the air and takes off. I think it's just that because Lune and CL were
It's because they're recent, I guess.
Right. And also like right there, like that's where it happened, that their energy is still floating there.
But then she later repaints like a ton of like, granted it's not full, but like all the expeditioners. And it's like, okay, but that would have been lots of dead ones. And like the fact that not even one of them was like Gustav and there was like the shadow of him walking up to her, I'm like, Like it's another one of those things where it's you want just that little bit more to kind of like put a nail in that coffin, but
yeah, you'd think like a version of him being amongst all those like I don't know,
or even
other
him somehow
versions
being a
that showed up.
secret boss or anything.
Yeah, or something. Yeah, because they just like don't bring him back. I don't know if he was in your ending. I feel like maybe she brought him back then.
Yeah, she is back in that
Yeah,
ending.
yeah.
So is what was the girlfriend's
Sophie?
name?
Soph?
Yeah,
Sophie?
she's back
Sophia?
there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good in your ending.
See,
I
that's
didn't
why
get
my
that.
ending's better.
My ending what hit hard, but I was like, I made the right choice. Renoir was right. Like, I'm not kidding. Yeah. This. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's a tremendous game that does a fantastic job on telling a story about dealing with grief, essentially.
Mm-hmm. It became all about grief. And in the good ending or whatever ending you want to, there's no good ending, just the ending I chose with Verso. You actually see the family dealing with, like at a gravesite and dealing with the death of the son. And the son whose soul is trapped in that painting, constantly keeping the painting alive, the whole world, he gets to finally rest and he disappears. So even the son is allowed to actually just like fully pass on. It's like good, but like not good.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it's never going to be a happy ending of any sort.
no, because it's like it's so true. It sucks though in the ending because you see CL and Monaco and SK and Lune like die and like so there's a bro hug with SK, Monaco, and Verso, and it's like holy fuck, that bro hug meant so much. It was so
See,
good.
you're
But
just
so
saying
sad.
that, and I know I picked the right ending now.
Yeah, CL comes and is like, seems to just kind of stand in front of him, like, yeah, I understand. Lune literally sits on the ground and just kind of gives this look like, fuck you, Verso, and then like slowly think it's an intense ending.
Yeah.
It says a lot.
Well, I'm gonna say a lot now because now we're into the fun part. So, what's your final score? Because I'm at an 8.
I'm at a 9.5 because my two major gripes: one, the mini map, 100%, and two, we had talked about SK's flight speed. I don't mind the backtracking. I don't mind the moving around in the third act. It needed to either be faster or even a fast travel, where if you've been to a place already on the main map, you can click on it and like fast travel to its like thing. Especially like if that doesn't unlock till the third act or whatever, fine. But yeah, like either the flight needs to go faster or that fast travel because moving on that map, going between like the Gestrel beaches to do the mini games and shit. Like,
By the way, that
holy
last
hell.
one where you had to do the like going up a platform to try to deal with a bunch of balls coming down, that is the biggest pile of bullshit I've ever seen.
That was a pile of bullshit. The tower climb with like very poor platforming because it's a JRPG,
That
not a
one
platformer.
I did first try. That one, like
Really?
the first platforming one at the very beginning, I struggled with, but that's because I was just learning to platform. The like crazy spiraling like vertical one, first try. By then,
Really?
by then I understand how to do it.
No, I can't. I still couldn't do the platforming. It's such a pain in the shit. Like it's not a good platforming.
It's
game.
not it's
like,
not accurate, but I've understood how it worked, so I was able to figure that. But it's not as it's not it should have been way better. And also, no offense, Sandfall, but that game did not need parkour.
No, like I don't understand. Like those Gestrel, I don't think there was one I actually liked. Maybe the race was fine, where you have to get there in 36 seconds.
The race
like,
one was fine. Yeah, that was the only one that I didn't mind.
No, the first one where it's like volleyball. I took me like 10 tries. I could not.
Oh, that one. There's a mod that made it completely nonchalant, so I dealt with that.
I
because
wish.
eventually I gave up. I gave up on the big ones. I'm like, there's no way. I mean, there's one that it literally just takes its health down to 1, and I'm like, thank you, because I'll never finish this.
Yeah, I did it.
It would be like having a mod for Final Fantasy X's Thunder Plane so that you only have to get 1 lightning dodge.
Yes, fuck that thing. But yeah, my score 9.5, and it's just because I would love a mini map. And in the third act, SK should fly like super fast. Airships in Final Fantasy are super fast. Like you can get around that map in seconds. So it should either be like that, and I'd probably prefer that. And then if for some reason they couldn't do that, then a fast travel. If you've already been to a location, you can just click on it on the map, and you'll just fast travel to right outside of it on the map and walk in. If I had those two things, honestly, the game to me, 10 out of 10. There could be small little changes I'd like as well, but it's my game of the year, 9.5. Really, only those two gripes. I could handle everything else very much. It's the most fun I've had with a JRPG. It's the best Final Fantasy since Final Fantasy 9 or 10. I'm still torn on which of those two, which is insane to say when that was 20 years ago, which is like over 20 years ago. Crazy.
And this is where it gets fun for me. So I have a few hot takes about this game. Now, I want to preface this by saying part of this is personal bias, and part of this is a little bit of like childish frustration with the way that things are being done, the way things are being hyped up by the general community. But I'm not here to yuck on anybody's yum. I actually see why people like this a lot. This is not me saying this game doesn't deserve the hype. This is not me saying this isn't a Game of the Year contender. I want to make that very clear. This is me being personally upset about things and being a little bit childish about it.
So excited.
the first hot take, this game does not get the praise it's getting if it doesn't look like Dark Souls. If this was an anime RPG, this does not get attention at all. I guarantee you, if this was an Atlas game, this does not get nearly the amount of attention. But it's because it was an Xbox exclusive, or I guess not exclusive, but it was an Xbox game, so it was a westernized game, also being made in Europe, so it gets the attention of like, ooh, that's a different country than we normally see. And then because of its aesthetic, I think that's a huge part of why people got into it, because it looks so much like Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, all that jazz.
Yes, absolutely. As somebody who doesn't even play those games, it's still one of the huge reasons I love it.
And I think that's why it's getting mainstream attention, because that's what's popular right now, is games that look like Elden Ring.
Yes.
So good job on the developers. They made the right call with how this looks, whether that was intentional or not. The other part is, I've seen people talk about, and when you said, it's the best like Final Fantasy since 9 or 10, there are people that are acting like this is the best JRPG in 20 years, to which I go, I know that you don't play JRPGs then.
Yeah, oh yeah.
If you are saying this is the best turn-based RPG in 20 years, you have immediately outed yourself as never playing Persona, never playing Trails, never playing the new Yakuza games, never playing games like, oh my god, Chris, what's the one that we both liked that was like a Steam indie game? Chained Echoes, thank god. Brain.
Oh, Chained Echoes, yeah.
Or Sea of Stars.
Yeah.
That tells me that all you play is Final Fantasy.
This is a mainstream.
When I see a take that says this is the best turn-based RPG in forever, I know you only play Final Fantasy then. Because my frustration with a lot of this hype is that I can tell that no one's played Persona. Like, these are a lot of people that have never played Persona. And I know that most people haven't played Trails because it's still very niche. That one I can let go, because it's still sort of finding its feet. But, like, the fact that people are acting like, oh, this game is amazing, like, no game has ever been like this, and I immediately go, Metaphor is twice as good as this game.
Yeah.
And when you play Metaphor eventually, you will understand.
Yeah, I still haven't got to Metaphor, but it's coming to Game Pass right after this fucking game. Fucking Game Pass is like, hey, do you want Doom? Yeah, no, fuck you. Here's Metaphor as well. Finish Expedition. Like, holy crap. So yeah, like, I'm very happy.
There is a little bit of like, I love that, it's, doing very well because it hit an aesthetic that people liked. What my frustration is that it really pisses me off that people are acting like so many great JRPG series and games don't exist. And it's one of those things that, like, every time I see more and more hype about this game and they're like, oh man, this is the greatest, like, Japan wishes they were making games like this. And I'm like, they're making better games than this. You just don't play them. And I know this for a fact, there are so many people that literally will not play games if they're from Japan because they think they're too weird, or they won't play anime games because they don't want to be outed as weeby. And it's like, guys, this is 2025. We can kind of get over ourselves a little bit here. I play a bit of everything because why the hell would I hold myself back from certain things? Are there certain shows that I stay away from? Yeah, but that's because I've been on this mortal coil for 37 years. I have a pretty good grasp of what I do and don't like. But I can tell that a lot of these people are 18 and have only played like 2 Final Fantasy games and went, I don't get what the hype is about this series. It's kind of meh. To which, yeah, if you've been playing any Final Fantasy games from about 2005 onward, yeah, it's kind of meh.
Yeah, 20 years. And I think that your both of your gripes so far, I think, are kind of almost combining because the reason the hype, I think, is the way it is with this is, yes, you're right with the aesthetic, and it's because this is in the mainstream of people who play games that have this more realistic look.
Yeah.
They don't play anime, they don't like Sea of Stars because it's a pixel game. They don't want to play something that looks like it's from 1998. They don't want to play an anime. They like the aesthetic of God of War and Spider-Man and Horizon, and hence why they probably have played Final Fantasy because Final Fantasy has that. I mean, realistic, look. The characters don't look anime. The characters don't look pixelated. Like they look as much as they're going to be. Those same people have never played Octopath Traveler. They've never played Chained Echoes. They've never played Persona. They know what Metaphor Ray Fantasio is because it was mentioned at the Game Awards only. Like and I think it's that this is in the mainstream and why people are acting like only the mainstream exists.
My honest hope is that this game will allow people to explore the series or just explore the genre a little bit more and see what else is out there. Because, like I said, most people are just enjoying the game and that's all they're saying. But some of the takes that I see where it's talking, like I said, like the no turn-based RPG has been like this forever, I'm like, I can't believe that you would say that with a straight face and not mention some of the others that have been released, even in the last, 5 years, in this decade alone.
100%. Oh,
and
yeah.
It's just my personal frustration. And did that maybe make the late stages of this game a little bit negative to me? There's a possibility for that. Maybe there is just a little bit of me trying to intentionally find something. Like I said, some of this is just childish frustration for me. I'm not gonna not admit that. I'm very open about that shit. But I do think it really is a personal taste thing. I don't like depression all the time, especially because life is depressing enough as it is. So once the mystery and the intrigue left and it was all about the feels, I started to lose. I'm not saying that it suddenly is the worst game ever. I'm just saying my interest levels went from a 10 to a 7. It was just okay, yeah, this is good. It's good quality writing, but I don't personally like this.
Yeah, and you're not alone on that in the sense that I've seen many, not even just people on YouTube or anything. I've seen a lot of articles of people writing about the game, how they didn't like the ending, they didn't like they didn't mind that it was focused on grief and stuff like that, but felt like it was way too much or too sad or
because other games have done it well.
Enough.
Persona does that very well with dark themes like that. Trails has done some really fantastic stuff with themes like that. It's not it's no other RPG has ever done it. It's just this one went full bore into it.
Yes, it did. And I'm the type of person where I love that. I love when a story is hey, there is no good ending. Everybody kind of actually loses. And here's why. I know,
it's so shocking to hear that from someone who's currently binging both the Last of Us TV show and trying to finish Last of Us Part 2 at the same time.
Oh yeah, I'm so fucked with that. I'm so far behind in the game. But I honestly just want the Last of Us Part 3 to be hey, actually everybody just dies. I actually want it just to go full sad because it's you're not coming back from this. The Walking Dead went on way too long. It should have been a long time ago where it's hey, yeah, there's no coming back from this. We're all we're done now.
And it works in bursts. It's what made the original Telltale Walking Dead work so well, but then it stopped being as good after that because you just realize, well, there's no point in me attaching to anybody because I know they're all going to die now.
Yeah. Oh, that first one was so good. But yeah, I'm somebody who likes the grief. I love as long as it's well written and heavy hitting, and there's a great message with this game, and it's written so well, like you're saying. But I can completely see that that's not for everybody because that makes a game JRPGs are usually zany, fun, happy. You play a Tales of game. I get they're not turn based, but it's still just based, action JRPG, and holy shit, those are zany as hell. It's a dragon girl that comes out and it's I've lived on this mountain for 1,000,000 years. I look like I'm 8. Let's go kill the bad guy. There's not a lot of oh, by the way, here's all the heavy grief that you could actually relate to in real life. And this one was different, right? It hits a lot harder and not sometimes people are playing JRPGs because they want happy, and that's totally normal because I love those too. And it's
technically you get that whenever Eskie is saying anything on screen, so
that's true. That's true. I feel like that guy just needs his own spin-off at this point. A
So,
flying
like,
simulator, but with more speed.
so I want to end with this essentially. I will not say that this game is overrated. I could never say that in good, to be in good faith, there's no way this game is overrated. This game deserves the accolades it's getting. It deserves the praise it's getting. Do I associate with everything the game does? No. There are certain things that I just don't take away with it, whereas you obviously do. What I will say is that this game has made it very clear to me that the entire genre that it's in is underappreciated and underlooked.
Oh, fuck yes, 100%. Because yes, the fact that people, like you said, are like, this is the greatest JRPG in a long time. No, people who say it's the greatest Final Fantasy in 20 years, I completely agree. Completely, because it brought back all the things that made Final Fantasy great.
Like, my initial reaction to this game is Square.
Yeah. Yes. Square is one that's dropping the ball. I think that Octopath Traveler is way better than any Final Fantasy that's been out in 20 years.
Like, did it make it really obvious at this point that, like, oh, so turn-based and realistic graphics can work? Wow.
Yes. Yeah, this is a message to Square. If anyone's like, this is probably the best Square game in 20 years, I may even agree with that. I'd have to look at them, but that would be tough because, again, there's some good things in there. But it's close because I find this better than Octopath Traveler and stuff like that. But it's not the greatest JRPG. There is Chained Echoes. There is Sea of Stars. And those are, yes, indie games, but you do have Persona. You do have Metaphor Refantasia, which I haven't played yet, but I am going to very much be diving into. Hadn't played it yet because it's $93 and my backlog doesn't allow for that kind of stuff. There are so many good JRPGs that are turn-based that are out there, the Trails games, that I personally love, Adam, you love, and I agree that I hope that the fact that this game has become so popular in the mainstream gamer space, that it may bring more people over to be willing to try something like Metaphor Refantasio. And I feel like Atlas is actually a genius because they made a deal with Xbox to obviously put the game on there. On Xbox, they made a Metaphor Refantasio dynamic theme you can install. Like, they went full.
Which, by the way, I think that is the perfect game for that because that art is fucking phenomenal.
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. They made a special controller. Xbox announced there's a Metaphor controller you can get. Yeah.
Oh,
it doesn't look great. It doesn't look, I don't know, it doesn't look as good. They also released
I'll be the judge of that. Give me a second.
A Witcher 3 one, which looked a little bit better for the 10th anniversary.
Oh, that's disappointing. Okay.
Yeah, it was a little disappointing. But I think Atlas is a genius because I don't know how far in advance you plan this, but if they didn't, then they're not genius, but they are lucky because you have all these people on Game Pass.
They also have a Persona 4 remake potentially in the works as well. So
yes, so this game is really popular, and for people who would have subscribed to Game Pass, and all of a sudden Game Pass a month later, maybe not even, is like, hey everybody, here's another great turn-based JRPG that was actually nominated for Game of the Year last year. All of a sudden, Metaphor may become a lot more talked about in the mainstream, gamer space, and I really hope it is. I'm even more excited to play it, and I was already excited to play it in the first place, but even my love for turn-based JRPGs has gone up because of this game. So I can't wait.
So I looked. So if I take away Final Fantasy VII Remake, because that is, quite frankly, my favorite Square game in a long time, I have to go back to 2005 to find a game that I could put on par, Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah, and that's 20 years. So, yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. But it's so, yeah, I think this is more people looking at Square, not the genre.
This also could be a younger audience, too, that just doesn't have, like, nearly the outreach, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
But man, like, if this means a lot more people start to explore turn-based RPGs, like, again, if you're watching this, God forbid, if you're somehow still watching this video after all this, guys, Persona, like, start Persona 5, like, Royal Edition right now. Like, right now.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can move on to Metaphor 2. I don't think I'd start people on Trails, because I think that might be pushing my luck a little bit there. But, like, yeah. Like, Persona 5 and Metaphor. Like, not even a question. Go play those.
Yeah. I mean, that Trails, the first game's getting its remake this year, too. That could be a good starting point.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit of an action-based, though, because, I mean, if we're talking turn-based, like, we'd be looking at...
it's not
we'd be looking at, like... Well, it's doing what the new games are doing, which where it's equal parts action, equal parts turn-based.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I didn't realize they were using that engine.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, then, no. I would suggest going back to the original Trails.
Also,
'cause
trying
that
to tell
first
people,
game-
hey, if you really want to get into JRPGs, here's this series that's 13 games long. That's like I might as well be trying to ask people to start watching One Piece, right? So,
Yeah, I'm never doing that. I'm too late.
but yeah, like I said, I fucking love this game. I just don't love it to the extent that everybody else does right now for obviously the reasons I've outlined. But hey, one person on the show is probably going to have it as their game of the year this year. So,
This guy.
and who knows?
I don't.
And who knows? We might break the JRPG king.
Yeah, maybe. If Kaylan gets into this, that's proof of what we were just saying about the mainstream. Because
Right?
he does not want to play a turn-based.
If Kaylan
like,
sits
indie
down and
game.
says, "This is the best one of these games I've ever played," I'd be like, "Damn it!"
I'd be more like, how many other turn-based RPGs have you played? Yeah, I have a feeling that this year is going to be interesting for me. I feel like at the end of the year, my game of the year will be this, and then the Jin and Chris classic, older game played is going to be Metaphor, because I'm probably going to be like, these two turn-based JRPGs take my top for
I'm also trying to think
this
of
year
like
and
what
last
could
year.
potentially be coming out that could even like give this game like for you this and for me Blueprints like give it a run for its money right now. And I'm just kind
I
of
don't.
quickly scrolling to see if I can find anything that might have a crack at it.
I mean,
I'm
Ghost of
only
Yote would have to be really good.
yeah,
And
that Mafia Old Country if it's like short and
Oh,
sweet
and
and really
Mafia,
really hits
yes.
well, like that has a shot at it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's two more Trails games for me, so there's always that. There's the Sky remake, and apparently we're getting another new game in the series localized by the end of this year. So who knows? But yeah, there's still a lot that hasn't been announced yet. Obviously, we'll start to hear that more as we get closer to the summer. But
Yeah, actually, it's only a couple weeks away.
yeah, it's
June
pretty
5th,
crazy to
6th?
think how it's similar to what it was last year, where we all thought Helldivers was going to be our game of the year, and then all of a sudden, like all this other shit came out in the second half, and we're like, well, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good problem to have, unless you're me with a backlog.
Well, like no one is going to be. Well, I shouldn't say no one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
There's plenty of
People
Jen
have
and
my
Chris's
problem.
out there.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I have 200 games to play. I should just buy one.
But yeah, flat out, like if you've never played a turn-based RPG before, here's your gateway. Like that's
easily.
point blank. This is the gateway now.
Yeah.
And especially because you can get it for no cost at all on Xbox Game Pass, or quite frankly, it's not even full price on other services. It's accessible.
Yeah, it's a decent price game. It's like I think 60 Canadian
For the hours that you get to, if you actually like I think I finished it around 40-ish, which is pretty good for a game that's not full price.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mine took 53 hours. That's how long it took me, but
Yeah,
I did
and
every
you
achievement.
100%ed, yeah.
I got every journal, I got every piece of music. I did everything, and I loved it. The journals, honestly, just side note at the end here, one of my favorite things. Finding out about the other expeditions.
Some of
and
them
stuff.
are really funny, and some of them are really depressing too.
Yeah, some are really depressing. I'm like, oh, and there's some that even you find out about like Verso a bit more, and this girl.
Yeah,
Julie,
there's like
and
there's some of the quote unquote secret ones.
yeah, they explain a little bit more about another girl who's not even another painted person that liked Verso, but starts to figure out the truth about him. And oh my god, yeah, that's like hard hitting. And I'm like, this is just a collectible on the world map. Like, what the fuck?
It's like how sometimes like when BioShock had its audio things that just once in a while just one of them hit, and it's just like fuck. I just stumbled
Yeah.
across that.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, I love this game. I completely understand where you're coming from too. Yeah, I just hope people use this as a gateway drug into more turn-based RPGs, and we get more turn-based, because I know we have some, but Square, come on.
We
I'm
want them to be
you.
pushed up front because open world games are so passé now.
Oh fuck, I'm so sick of
Turn-based
them.
RPGs need to make a full comeback. Metaphor started it. Clair Obscur seems to have brought it to the forefront.
Yeah, if
And,
you're
like,
gonna have an open world game,
I
and an
have my
airship.
opinions that are obviously some people aren't going to agree with about this game, but the one that I have, regardless of my taste, is I'm happy that people are suddenly paying attention to turn-based RPGs again.
Yeah, me too. Oh, it feels so good. nostalgic but new all at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think after nearly an hour and a half, I think we've done enough.
I think so.
So you guys know the drill. Like and subscribe. Comment below, like, where do you stand on it? Like, I know a lot of you are probably in the 10 out of 10 camps. Do y'all have similar, notions to what I have? Like, where are you at? Like, if you really do think it's some of the best JRPGs in a long time, like, what is it that you've been playing? Like, what have you been playing recently do you think this is better than? Like, I'm curious on where everybody's kind of standing on that. So leave comments below on all that. But otherwise, next week we should be back to our normal schedule. Main show on the Wednesday and Sidequest on the Friday. I don't remember what I think we're either on I think we're on the OG Xbox up next now, Chris, because I think we have that and just the PS2 left in that console generation for the remakes.
It's going by. I don't want it to end. It's like my favorite segment.
We're getting there. But yeah, we will have all of that and more. So take care wherever you may be. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye for now.